The chair recognizes Senator Moss.
Rolling Stone gathers no more. Other than Dwight Sawyer, Senator Moss is the only time we've always come prepared.
Madam Vice President, it is with esteemed pleasure that I stand before you again in this honorable place to give my contribution to this debate. I remain ever grateful to the Almighty God for the health and strength that He has given me, because without Him, I would not be able to stand here before you in this honorable house. I would like to take this time to thank my honorable leader and Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Hubert Minnis, for his reposed confidence in my ability to be a part of the makeup of the government today. Lastly, I would like to thank my trade union brothers and sisters, particularly the Bahamas Communication Public Officers Union, aka the BCPOU, whose shoulders I stand on in the great fight for better, not only for our members, but for Bahamians. Madam Vice President, according to the German proverb, promises are like the full moon. If they are not kept at once, they diminish day by day. I recall very vividly back in 2013 how the Member of Parliament for Kalani, the Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, whispered to myself, along with the AG and a few others, about how the over-the-hill community has long been forgotten and something has to be done. In 2014, he started beating the drums to the rest of the executive team, and it was well received and greatly supported. Mr. Minnis then continued sharing his ideas and plans with the public, which was chaired on by the people, but criticized by some either outside or politically. Fast forwarding to 2018, 1 year after being sworn in to serve as Prime Minister of our beloved Bahamas, Prime Minister Minnis wasted no time on delivering another promise to the Bahamian people, which he has been fighting for the last 5 years. The bill we are debating is an historical one, because this administration has found the human will to start the process of developing the over-the-hill areas to the quality of living that they should be enjoying. Madam Vice President, as I move around in the over-the-hill areas here in Nassau, I had the honor to speak with some of the residents and ask them about their views on this economic bill. I can tell you that despite the many attempts to discourage this by those opposite, people are excited and throwing their full support behind this economic empowerment bill, aka the People's Bill. This bill, which we are debating in the upper house to decide whether we want to give our individual seal of approval based on the data and objective, is going to positively impact the lives of the people who have been long forgotten by those who represented them for over the 30 years and didn't do nothing better for their constituency, but instead just used them for votes and personal advancement. As I walk through the community, an old lady whose name I will not call because she is a PLP supporter, and she don't want her grandchildren to be victimized for her thoughts. She said, never thought in my years of living that she was going to see this day. She told me that when she heard Prime Minister Minnis talk about it, she thought he was joking. But the younger people believed in him. She said, Senator, over the years, my party has promised me and others on upgrading our area, but it never happened. Young Senator, as you can see, I ain't no young woman, but I will join the line because it's happening. I am thankful to God because it's really happening. I just hope I live to see it either when in its middle or in its completion stage. Also, while sitting on the basketball court down in Langleston, I had the opportunity to engage with fellow young Bahamians on their views on the over-the-hill redevelopment plans. Madam Vice President, thank you. Order, I didn't interrupt you all.
Yeah, is the PLP trying to stop you from
Telling the truth.
being here?
Yes.
Please do not do it.
Madam Vice President, they were down with it. The young man said, Senator, The reason why I'm supporting it is because we live in a close-knit community area, but one of the reasons why we have a social or a crime problem in the poor areas is because it seems like no one is checking for us and the people. The younger people find themselves resorting in illegal activity just to maintain or to get by. We don't want this type of lifestyle, but what we want to do is to not be doing nothing. We want the over the hill to be like how it is in Carmichael Road and South Beach when it comes to economic development, which has done well for them. They tell me to say that anyone who has a problem with this bill speaks negative to this, that they could possibly bring better days to their lives, community, and financial freedom, to please get lost and kick rocks. Shout out to Sean, Nicholas, Dino, and Jason. Madam Vice President, I tend not to be, Madam Vice President, I tend not to be long on this because the bill itself speaks to what it was designed to do, and that is to create an economic empowerment for the over the hill. I am grateful for the contributions of the private sector and civil society in shaping this legislation. The Over the Hill Community Development Partnership Initiative is built around 6 pillars: social empowerment and the preservation of Bahamian history, Bahamian heritage, rejuvenation, smart technology, green technology, youth and elderly empowerment, and economic empowerment. Madam Vice President, the Economic Empowerment Zone Bill 2018 was born out of the valuable work of the Over the Hill Community Development Partnership Initiative. From what I was made to understand by those working on the project, they informed me that in time we hope to build a native food market over the hill. With this initiative, a native food market will feature Bahamian architecture and art. It will be a major economic empowerment project and revitalization project. Such a native food market will welcome scores of Bahamians and tourists and provide businesses opportunities for many Bahamians to sell their goods and products. This market will have a variety of food and products for sale, from Bahamian-made ice cream to potato and cassava bread, tamarind sauce, and other Bahamian treats. Madam Vice President, this bill is designed to empower not only the Over the Hill community, but also other communities with similar needs. The components of this Economic Empowerment Zone Bill are designed to encourage residential and economic property development and investment in these zones. It will encourage investment through comprehensive tax incentives, including relief from real property tax, custom duties exemption for any materials needed for construction, equipping, and completion of buildings and structures. These concessions will apply on all materials imported from abroad and also purchased from local suppliers. Madam Vice President, I wish to reiterate that the local suppliers will be able to take part in this initiative through the Ministry of Finance. Indeed, local suppliers are encouraged to do so. Additionally, Bahamians in the area that earn $5 million in revenue or less may apply to the Ministry of Finance to receive a trade certificate. The certificate will allow for a waiver of business license fees. It will also allow businesses that may require a vehicle for their operations to import one vehicle and pay no customs duties or other taxes on the vehicle. Upon application, requirements such as a clear marking of the vehicle and other conditions will be outlined. Madam Vice President, let me be clear. If there is a change in the purpose or use of the vehicle, or if the vehicle is sold, all taxes related to the importation of the vehicle will be due to the government. The concessions under the bill will not extend to establishments that sell alcohol where there is primarily activity or to numbers or to gaming. Madam Vice President, the Economic Empowerment Zone Bill will allow the minister responsible to declare by order a specific area as an empowerment zone. The designation of the zone as an empowerment zone will be for areas where there are high levels of poverty, unemployment, or crime. As we have promised the Bahamian people, Over the Hill will be the first economic empowerment zone. This zone is between Nassau Street on the west, up to Collins Wall in the east, and from Wolf Road and Ponciana Drive to the south to Delancey Street in the north. Contrary to false talk by an individual in the lower house, I want to remind the public that the government will next declare other zones, including Angliston, St. Barnabas, Rock Crusher, Camp Road, Fox Hill, and Gambia. Each order shall last for 5 years and will be renewable for a maximum of 3 times. Businesses in an economic empowerment zone are expected to benefit from the preferential treatment and to get on their feet and grow stronger. The time period that has been chosen is significantly long to bring about certainty so that businesses can plan and grow, but short enough so that we do not create an ultimate entitlement. Through data collected by the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, the government will be able to measure and review the results of the zones on a yearly basis. Following review, the government will determine whether the benefits will continue. A successful zone is one where we see businesses growing, hiring, and being a good corporate citizen. A successful zone is one where we see marked improvement in the physical environment, as we see evidence that households are taking advantage of the many opportunities under this legislation. We want to see families utilizing the many services that will be offered, as well as improvements in the health and welfare of young people and the elderly. Madam Vice President, along with the exemptions and initiatives under this legislation, there are obligations on businesses in the zones to engage corporate social responsibility. Accordingly, businesses will be required to give back to the communities in which they operate. They may do in a variety of ways, such as donations to local charity, supporting youth empowerment programs, supporting a heritage or cultural program or initiative, supporting a local youth program, supporting a local youth supporting team, adopting a school, or volunteering in or supporting a local feeding program and nutrition initiatives to reduce obesity and non-communicable food-related diseases. The team has expressed to me that they are grateful to the many businesses that have already indicated an interest in participating in such projects. Madam Vice President, addressing corruption is central to the government's program of good governance. There are serious penalties for those who are found to be contravention of the terms of the trade certificate or who has make false statements under the provisions of this legislation. The penalties range from revoking the trade certificate to a fine up to twice the value of the concessions offered and/or imprisonment. In addition to the penalties outlined in the bill, the court may also impose additional penalties such as confiscation of goods. Madam Vice President, towards the end, this bill will create economic opportunities for investment in cultural assets, including the Over the Hill. There are a number of historic landmarks which should be preserved and heritage sites which we will enhance with better infrastructure, signage, and security for Bahamians and visitors. Madam Vice President, we plan to strengthen and register of historic buildings with the addition of specific Over the Hill sites and properties. The rejuvenation of these historic sites will begin the process of linking Bay Street with the Over the Hill in terms of opportunities for tours, excursions, and additional tourism revenue, which in my view calculates to more jobs. Madam Vice President, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "Although the government seed the fund will be open to donations from any and all private donors. Applicants will be able to apply to obtain small grants from $1,000 to $25,000 in the first duration to support the fine initiatives that they are undertaking that add to the cultural expression of the country. These are to be substantive projects such as writing a book, producing a film or documentary, commissioning an art series, putting on a play, creating a performance space for musicians, poets, etc." End quote. Madam Vice President, I support this because this government is allowing Bahamians to invest in their own land. I support this because the government is allowing Bahamians to grow and develop their own. I support this because the government is allowing Bahamians to have real economic ownership in their communities with more jobs and more hope for a better future. And yes, my fellow Bahamians, I support this because the government is allowing Bahamians to help create a new and better over the hill. Madam Vice President, I support this much needed, timely, and historical bill. Thank you. Yes, that would be short.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Madam Vice President, Senate colleagues, my fellow Bahamians, as always, I'm grateful to God and I thank Him for every opportunity to present in this place once again. Madam Vice President, before I go into my contribution, I wanted to pose a question for the government to clarify. In reading today's paper, I note that the Minister of National Security quoted saying that they are looking at home and abroad for a new Commissioner of Corrections. And I just query, does this mean that a foreigner could be brought in to head the prison? I think that's a question that the Bahamian people would like to know, because you may have some persons that are waiting in line to get this post, and now the government has intentions to look abroad as well as home.
The chair recognizes Senator Beckham.
Thank you. First of all, we are not into social promotion. All right? Promotion in the public service under this administration is going to be merit-based. Merely because someone has been in position, serving time, and the next one up top is vacant, that doesn't mean you're going up. We're looking for merit and persons who can make a difference, not persons who may have been serving time. That being said, I don't know what the status is or have any details about the second or third lines in the prison. No. But I want to say this, that's the first policy of the government, that promotion should be merit-based. Second point is that we have a policy that we are reaching out to the Bahamian diaspora, to those young and talented, highly educated Bahamians who, perhaps because of the errors and abuses of the former government, felt that they had nothing that they could contribute or would not be allowed to contribute their invaluable or very valuable skills and training to their own country's development. And they found and received and obtained, in many cases, very high-ranking positions in tech industry, in other services, and perhaps there are Bahamians in similar positions who have risen up in the prison system in terms of administration, etc., who may have that kind of experience, particularly in the United States, where, like it or not, prison is basically a business these days. A significant amount of businesses are now, prison operations are now private sector owned enterprises. So when we say advertising at home and abroad, in the first, we are advertising for Bahamians. The Prime Minister, wherever he goes, makes it a point to speak to the Bahamian diaspora, to young Bahamians. And in fact, we put our money where our mouth is. One of the recently appointed managers at BPL is a Bahamian who the Prime Minister met when he visited Atlanta last year. And he encouraged her to come back and was surprised recently to go to BPL, and he saw her and he said, "Oh wow, how you got here?" And she said she took him at his word. She had worked with the electrical supplier in redesigning, and she was one of the key architects of this project, evidently, the entire electrical grid for the city of Atlanta, Georgia in the United States. She came home to the Bahamas, a Bahamian. Okay, and so with those few comments, I hope I've allayed any deep suspicions on the part of the opposition.
Thank you,
Because
Minister.
I know if we do nothing, we can get criticized, and if we try to do something, we get criticized.
No. I am a part of the opposition and I will ask questions as need for clarification.
Yeah.
And I want it to go on
eyes are
record
open now.
that you are seeking
I said right there.
Bahamians
Yes.
abroad.
Yes.
And there will be no
Yes.
foreigner brought in to lead as Commissioner of Correction. That was my question.
No.
That's it.
I am telling you what I understand the broad policy, Madam President. The broad policy of the government is to encourage Bahamians abroad, part of the brain drain, to come home. But I do not propose or purport in anything I say to tie the hands of a colleague minister in the proper discharge of the functions of his office.
Okay, so it could be. Thank you. You don't want to purport his colleague, so it could be. I move along, Madam Vice President.
Thank you,
Thank the AG
Senator.
for his assistance in clarifying or trying to clarify.
I trust that your question was clarified.
I'm not sure, but we'll go with what you think. I rise today to contribute to the Economic Empowerment Bill 2018. Madam Vice President, you would note from my various contributions that I have been advocating for the government to provide the Bahamian people with plans to build this economy, to encourage foreign investment, to implement policies that would assist with the ease of doing business, to reform immigration. But my most passionate of them all was for this government to provide real opportunities to the less fortunate, especially those in the over-the-hill communities. Madam Vice President, I wish nothing more for this government as a Bahamian, that they succeed in bringing the sort of relief that the over-the-hill community is expecting of them. Because as you will note, the expectation from persons living in those communities is that there will be some real relief. The sort of relief that would be felt almost automatically in each and every home. And I have listened to those on the other side praise the government for their efforts by bringing this legislation. However, I am wondering if they took the time to dissect what is in the bill and what is missing. Because, Madam Vice President, as far as I am concerned, this bill lacks a lot of the vital, important, and necessary ingredients that would make life better for the less fortunate in the over-the-hill communities. Madam Vice President, in order to determine whether this bill Madam Vice President, in order to determine whether this bill achieves what it seeks to, let us look at the objectives. And for the purpose of my contribution, I think the one that speaks to benefiting the low-income families is at Clause 3A, to designate communities as economic empowerment zones and to encourage the economic and social empowerment of residents in the zone. However, throughout this bill, there is no clear direction on how this government intends to encourage social and economic empowerment to the low-income families. In fact, I go even further and state that in reality, this bill only gives the Minister of Finance the power to grant duty-free concessions to business owners, title holders, and occupiers that have the intention to develop the property within the designated zone. However, it does not give the sort of empowerment the objectives speak of, nor does it give the sort of relief as necessary to honestly and truly make life better for the residents over the hill. The reason why I state that is because the government has nothing, absolutely nothing in place for these low-income families to access capital. So even if there is a desire or an intention to improve property or revitalize in the community by a way of title holder or land occupier through the granted concessions, where will the low-income families get the capital from? We are all in agreement that most persons in these areas are less fortunate and require assistance in some way or the other. So let's just say they are the title holders or property owners. How are we providing social and economic empowerment when the only thing this bill does is grant concessions and approvals for development of property tax-free, but no clear way on how persons can gain capital to assist them in making the improvements? See, it sounds all good to say we are granting concessions and duty-free, but the reality is you are not empowering anybody but the same fortunate people that are already living the good life. Madam President, I can honestly say that at this moment, this is a botched bill. There is a television show called Botched. On this show, persons who had failed or horrible plastic surgery jobs completed go to another set of doctors who examine the botched jobs and repair the damages to bring relief to those aggrieved. As on the show, I submit the present state of this bill is that it is a botched job. And I wonder, when is this government going to stop pretending to care for the poor and actually bring the sort of legislation or policy decisions that relieves the poor? This bill is presently in a botched state, and there is a need for consideration and amendments which will be suggested later by the opposition to be made in an effort to actually assist all, inclusive of those low-income families in the communities. Before I go further, I wish to remind you, Madam Vice President, and those in this place, that it's important that the government also implement policies with the assurance that the makeup of our Bahama land is protected, that our people are not disadvantaged, and that the middle class and the lower class is not depleted due to disingenuous policies or legislation. Madam Vice President, as it pertains to Over the Hill community, I questioned in earlier contributions whether this F&M government would initiate a study to determine the owners of the property over the hill. If the study determines that it is indeed owned by the less fortunate, tax incentives for urbanization can prove beneficial to incentivize development if additional assistance, inclusive of access to capital, is provided. However, Madam Vice President, I said, if we find that the landowners are indeed the wealthy Bahamians, the F&M government may consider passing regulations that provides for use of land standards, which would require them to maintain their property at appropriate levels without disenfranchising Bahamians. I recall after making such a query that the Honorable AG and the leader of government business in his wrap-up advised that it was the intention of the government to do the necessary surveys ahead of this over-the-hill initiative to determine who are the landowners and to ensure the legislation would protect against gentrification or disenfranchising the low-income families. Madam Vice President, I would like to know whether this report was completed, and if so, what was the overall percentage of landowners that remain to be occupiers in the over-the-hill community? Madam Vice President, additionally, what I mean by gentrification and disenfranchising Bahamians is, for instance, the bill allows at Clause 5, Subclause 2B, for persons who have occupied the premises for a continuous period of not less than 12 years to make improvements and renovations to the said owner property with consent of the title holder. Now, that's all fine and good. However, one, Where is the protection for these tenants after having made renovations to the property, with the assurance that they will not be met with an increased rental fee or unnecessary hardship from the title holder? Further, 2, where is the protection as a whole for persons in the community who cannot afford to make renovations or move, but the landlord makes improvements and wish to increase the cost of living to earn back the money they spent to make the improvements? Madam President, I request that this F&M government ensure that any form of planned urbanization occurs without gentrification. One suggestion was that any form of revitalization for a defined period blocks the development of condos or townhomes or any form of development that will misplace the people of the over-the-hill community. Additionally, why not amend this bill to state that the landowners or title holders are restricted from increasing rent for a period of, say, about 3 years, or a period that allows the same low-income families to enjoy the updates to the community without the stress of being pushed out right after development?
There you go.
Madam Vice President, this can also potentially lead to fraud. Again, I query, what enforcement provision and legislation will the F&M implement to accompany this initiative and ensure the wealthy business owners are not defrauding the government and the community? Further, Madam Vice President, I note that Clause 12 of the bill states the business owner must, in their application, place a corporate responsibility statement committing to contributing to the community. And I ask, is this government serious? In a previous communication, I stated that there must be assurance to the over-the-hill community that savings earned by the business owners in the community will be passed down. Otherwise, your plan to bring relief will be ineffective. However, a simple message saying we do care about over-the-hill does not mean you intend to do right by the people. In addition, who will monitor and police this grant after granting the concession, that these companies are actually assisting the communities to be revitalized from a portion of their savings? In all of this discussion, I query also, have the government determined how this bill would be compatible with the allowances and concessions of the Commercial Enterprise Act? Did the government consider excluding businesses that already reap benefits under the Commercial Enterprise Act? We must ensure that there is little to no level of double dipping in the business community, especially if the real intent is to provide economic empowerment to those living in the over-the-hill community and to ensure that some form of benefits are passed down from businesses. Lastly, Madam Vice President, before I end, I want to remind the government that there is a need in this country to honestly lift the burden that continuously plague our low-income families. As you go about your business, there is a daily cry for some great policy initiative that would essentially meet the needs of the poor or assist to empower them. I am talking about real empowerment, not campaign rhetoric, real empowerment that will help families feel a part of their Bahamas and their community. There needs to be a revamping on how our policies protect against disenfranchising the already struggling families. What is this government's plan to assist the poor? Day in and day out, we see all sorts of communications rolled out of social service about scaling back this assistance and removing this program, such as the RISE program, which I will continue to make mention of in this place until I am pleased with an announcement of a replacement program that does above and beyond low-income families what the RISE program did. I'm good. So, Madam Vice President, I ask, how does the government promise they are seeking to stamp out poverty in this Bahamas and with the same breath cancel the RISE program that was developed to encourage healthy living, perfect school attendance, and take away the dehumanizing connotation of long lines and waiting in the hot sun for some assistance? How does the government parade around that they intend to be fiscally responsible and cut costs, then promise to buy a hotel in Grand Bahama, one that seemed would prove more burdensome, but in the same breath
Did you get
tell
permission
the
from your leader
families
here about that?
that they are cutting assistance to
criticizing-
uniform allowance previously granted to families. The letter went on to state the assistance was only going to be granted to 2 children. So forget about those homes with 4 or 5 kids. Pick your best 2 children, parents, and get the uniforms for them.
It's sad.
Also, the letter further states that social service will not assist those who got assistance last year unless extenuating circumstances.
They won't help the
Well, government, answer this. Have you made any extreme policy changes in the Bahamas since taking office a year ago that actually made circumstances better for low-income families to be living in a better position, to not still need assistance? Or have your recent policies proved more burdensome, placing some families in a worse-off condition? How does this government state they want to bring relief by way of concessions and tax-free zones in the over-the-hill community, and with the same breath raise VAT by 60% from 7.5 to 12% across the board with no real time for families to prepare? And then wave in the face of those hurting that bread basket items are exempt? However, when the Bahamians marched and pleaded for more time to get prepared, the government said no. But while on summer break from the House of Assembly, one letter from the wealthiest in the country gets a reply with a nod of understanding. The unwarranted burden of the intended real property tax policy on second homes would place on the rich man. So they promised to reverse at the earliest opportunity. Madam Vice President, I ask, wherein lies the victory for the over-the-hill community? Not in this botched economic empowerment bill. Wherein lies the victory to the low-income families that cannot enjoy such concessions in this legislation because they do not have the capital to renovate and improve their property?
Thank you very much.
Wherein lies the victory for the poor that still cannot afford any or little grocery and had social assistance cut? Wherein lies the victory for those who cannot even begin to get excited about the 500 exemption because they do not even have the first dollar to buy an airplane ticket? Wherein lies the victory for those low-income families in the over-the-hill community that fear the passage of this bill will threaten displacement because there are no real provisions to protect against rent hike? Wherein lies the victory for those Bahamians still waiting the promised jobs and empowerment that this bill still lacks? The government must get it right. There is some good to this bill if some of the proposed amendments that will be suggested by the opposition is honestly considered. I said if the amendments are considered and inserted in the bill, there will be a lot of good to it. Madam Vice President, I do intend to support this legislation with the proposed amendments. Proposed amendments. Put the amendments there and I support it. With the proposed amendments. With this, I end, Madam Vice President, who is the only person I'm speaking to. With this, I end. God bless the people. And God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
As many The chair recognizes Senator Dotson. Take a drink of water.
Madam Vice President, honorable senators, good afternoon. I ain't got none of that. You better talk outside. I am proud to stand here today to debate the Economic Empowerment Zones Bill 2018. But before I do, I wish to congratulate the newly elected officers of the Bahamas Communication and Public Officers Union, and of course, including our own Senator Jamal Moss, who was re-elected as Assistant Treasurer. I wish to thank Almighty God for me being in this place at this time. I also wish to thank, of course, the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis, for this appointment, my immediate and secondary family, of course, for their support. Anthony Carmona said, empowerment is not about doing the same thing, the same way, in the same environment. It's about building the man and woman and doing so with a view to creating better citizens and, by extension, better patriots in this society of ours. Madam Vice President, this Economic Empowerment Zones Bill is designed to do exactly that, to empower its citizens. This bill is critical to the over-the-hill rejuvenation and contains numerous concessions, tax exemptions, and benefits for residents. The over-the-hill area will become the first empowerment zone in the Bahamas, making history as it has never, I must say that, never been done before. This bill will impact and bring social and economic restoration and rejuvenation to economic empowerment zones, which we know as the over-the-hill or heritage areas. Madam Vice President, this bill will change the very landscape of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. As a matter of fact, this September, students who qualify will go to the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute free of charge. And next September, this will also happen at the University of the Bahamas. This proves the commitment of the people's government to revolutionize education and training. This government is about providing opportunities for a more productive and prosperous Bahamas. The over-the-hill area, Madam Vice President, has been the birthplace of the movers and shakers of our great Bahamas. Madam Vice President, the bill in its short form is a bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of businesses in a designated economic empowerment zone for matters considered thereto. This progressive, not botch, progressive piece of legislation will create tax-free zones so as to empower residents to improve their way of life, particularly in the over-the-hill communities in New Providence. Madam Vice President, in late April, the Prime Minister presented to the House of Assembly a white paper to restore the over-the-hill community, and in the recent budget presented to this House, several $million has been allocated for this initiative. Madam Vice President, the Over the Hill Community Development Partnership initiative is built around 6 key pillars. 1, social empowerment. 2, rejuvenation. 3, smart technology. 4, green technology. 5, youth and elderly empowerment. The youth and elderly empowerment. And 6, economic empowerment. The objectives of this bill are to designate communities as economic empowerment zones and to encourage economic and social empowerment of residents in the zone. Of course, my colleague across the way has asked, where's the capital coming from for them to be able to do? We know that there are a number of initiatives that the government already has in place through the Development Bank, through BAIC, through the Ministry of Finance, through the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, where a person can apply for small and medium enterprise loans. Okay, they're also getting exemption of payment of real property tax, custom duties. And you know, I asked those persons across the way, I hear good Senator Goldby talking about research and report. And I asked, what research and report have they ever presented in this place or in the House of Assembly? All right? The second objective. Y'all finished? We can be here the rest of the afternoon then. Thank you. The second objective of this bill is to provide for the granting
Senator
of
Dodson, may I interrupt you for 1 minute, please? Senators, we do say very often, all of us, this is an honorable place. Let us behave on both sides honorably, please, as our fellow senator is doing her presentation.
Thank you. The second objective of this bill is to provide for the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives to persons engaging in economic activities in the designated zones. The third objective is to promote the construction, renovation, and restoration of property and structures in a designated zone. And the fourth objective, to encourage the principles of corporate social responsibility. I'll say that again. To encourage the principles of corporate social responsibility. Madam President, the government does not need a compass to find their way because they have GPS. Wow. The most sophisticated technology. In essence, Madam President, this bill will improve the quality of life for the residents in these zones, which include health care, education and training, access to work and opportunity, housing, safety and security, a healthy and safe environment, the preservation of culture, and other things that will enrich the individuals, communities, and the nation as a whole. The concept of this bill is not to give handouts, but as was already said in this place, to give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. But you teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So this bill is not about giving handouts to persons, but teaching them how to fish. As the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert A. Minnis, said in his speech on Thursday, July 26, 2018, our people do not want handouts. They want a helping hand. Our people do not want pity. They want. So in order for the Prime Minister and this government to fulfill this mandate, this bill is so important that it is coming out of the office of the Prime Minister. Many studies have been done in the past to improve the over the hill with nothing being done. Nothing being done. Now that it is being done, we can find all kind of faults with no rhyme or reason to support the same. I say to my colleagues on the other side, give this bill a chance to work its magic. It's that important to all of us. Remember, it is about empowerment, not just giving a handout. It's real relief. Madam Vice President, the Economic Empowerment Zones Bill 2018 details tax exemptions and benefits for residents and businesses in the designated zones which must be applied for. Businesses with an aggregate turnover of $5 million or less will be exempt from customs duties for the import of commercial vehicles, business license fees, and excise tax. Residents who are seeking to build homes in the zones will receive exemption from custom duties on all materials necessary for the construction or reconstruction of buildings and structures. Homeowners in the zones will also be exempt from real property tax, excise tax, stamp duty. Businesses that sell alcohol as their primary activity and gaming houses, of course, are not eligible for these exemptions. In terms of business taxes, the following will happen. For all applicable businesses, with the exception of those engaged in restricted activities, upon obtaining a trade certificate which will prove that you are located in a zone, they will be afforded a 100% waiver of the assessed business license tax. They will also be exempted from customs duties for the purchase of a vehicle for use in their business with appropriate markings. Madam Vice President, the Minister may by order publish in the Gazette designate an area to be the Economic Empowerment Zone, hereinafter referred to as a zone, or make an order pursuant to subsection 1 shall state the description of the land and include a map of the area of land that constitutes the zone. And of course, the government leader in the House has already given you an idea of the ones that have been identified in New Providence. Once it is brought into force, the bill will expire on July 1st, 2023. The areas that we're specifically looking at will be ones where there are high levels of poverty, unemployment, and crime. The first time that any government has made an effort to truly target these areas. Madam Vice President, the Prime Minister, in his speech on this bill, noted that through these initiatives, the government hopes to see a rebirth of the values, the beauty, and the economic viability of Over the Hill. We will see a transformation of the Southern Recreation Grounds, or what some of us know as the government ground. And I think the name has even changed now. It's Father William Thompson Park. That is concrete action, guys. Then we will see more work being done on Father Martian Peters and MacPherson Parks, and even a new native food market. Imagine that. But yet, it's a botched bill, really. Madam Vice President, I will advise citizens who live in these areas to become very familiar with this bill.
Yes.
Determine how this bill will directly or indirectly affect them, their families, and communities at large, and determine if they meet the criteria. I encourage them to use this bill as an opportunity to improve and enhance their standard of living. This bill, despite the naysayers, gives our citizens an opportunity to make an investment in themselves and their communities.
Yes.
We usually come together in times of disaster when we have a hurricane. But this bill that the people's government has provided is allowing us to be proactive and provide the opportunity for us to come together now, to learn to work together and to build our communities and better our social ties with our neighbors now. Madam Vice President, the concessions being given to our business people, our pioneers, our entrepreneurs, demonstrates that our government is very serious about empowerment. This government is in sync with the pulse of the small and medium enterprises, particularly the mom and pop shops in these communities. It is through attaining economic empowerment that economic stability will be created, and this bill is proof of that. I say to the residents, you may have to start small, but you know what? Think big.
Yeah, exactly.
There is access to capital available.
Yeah.
Because there are many opportunities available. You already live in a tax-free zone. Take advantage of that in Freeport. This bill will remove the roadblocks and pave the way for new and innovative ideas in our communities. Our young people must take full advantage of everything that is available in this bill.
Yes.
Our senior citizens must now become mentors and role models to our young people. That's important. Madam Vice President, New Providence, of course, is the test for this bill, and we will soon see zones in our family of islands coming.
Yes.
As a proud product of Gibbs Corner off East Street, I am excited with the possibilities in this bill, which will create a healthier, safe, crime-free, educated, and empowered communities. In closing, I quote Barbara Jordan, who said, in closing, I quote Barbara Jordan, who said, education remains the key to both economic and political empowerment. I say that again. Education remains the key to both economic and political empowerment. Yes. Madam Vice President, I support the Economic Empowerment Zones Bill 2018.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam President. Once again, I'd like to commend all senators for the quality and thought of their presentations. Just a few quick comments in response to some of the points raised by members opposite. I think that the sharp answer that Skills and Training Darvel just got summarizes my response to him. His critique of the extension of the benefits of a tax-free zone to traditional areas, let me use PLP kind of talk, where the small man and the poor people are. He criticizes that for Nassau, but has lived comfortably and benefited thoroughly, evidently, and obviously from having lived in a tax-free zone created for all those rich folk like him in Freeport since 1955, and has done very well by it. It's a tax-free zone. I understand. We believe that the same way wealthy doctors and service providers in Freeport were inestimably benefited by tax-free and concessions for going on 60 years now, 60 plus years. We want that for our poor people over the hill. We want that for our family islands. We want that for those families in traditional New Providence communities such as Fox Hill and Adelaide and Gambia. We want them to have that. You know, it's amazing to hear the voice of the PLP in Freeport saying, it's okay what we got, I got it, I got, thank God for that, and we don't want you to get anything like it. We don't want you to get anything like it. We find a million reasons to oppose it. And no, what we are putting over the hill, is a focused, no, listen. Let me just say something. If the UBP had had half of the sense as Hubert Minnis, he would not have constructed. They would not have constructed such a deal. You could give those concessions without having given away your sovereignty in the area of Freeport. So let's don't go there. And Freeport people, they tell you they suffering, except you try to change it, and your biggest opponent will be people like Michael Darville and Freeport business community.
Point of order, Madam President. Madam President, Madam Vice President, I could not sit while the member, the AG, made a statement that is completely inaccurate and proves
You support getting rid of the Port Authority.
to be detrimental
You support getting rid of the Port Authority.
to the residents of the island of Grand Bahama.
We're not talking about Grand Bahama, we're talking about Freeport.
He made a statement that is mislead this this chamber, as well as the residents of Grand Bahama, and I need to clarify it.
Your opposition to something.
Clarify that, Doctor.
He has indicated that what we have in Grand Bahama under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement is equal to what he's proposing for the over-the-hill economic empowerment bill.
Except we
And that's
keep our
like,
sovereignty.
that's like comparing apples with oranges.
No, sir.
Some of your members of parliament
No, sir.
who
No, sir.
who are in Grand Bahama made a very interesting statement, because they have been asking for the economic empowerment bill to be placed in Grand Bahama and in the areas of Freeport where the Hawksbill Creek Agreement is. So it goes contrary to what you're saying. What you're proposing for Nassau is nothing that what we have on the island of Grand Bahama. Please.
Please, the Hawksbill Creek Agreement was designed to stimulate business at the price of sovereignty. It is what it is. It is a contract signed way back in 1955 for that, towards that end. Now, 1 second. It also provides exemptions from certain taxes that every other Bahamian everywhere else has to pay. And you've had the benefit, you and all of Freeport, and of late all of Grand Bahama have had the benefit of those tax exemptions that do not apply anywhere else in this country. Tax exemptions, rebates, yeah, sure. And what we are doing here is we are giving to the people.
That's different than the Hawksbill.
But the whole point about it is you benefited from whatever Hawksbill had to give you for more than 30 years.
Who are not licensees of the
And,
do not benefit
and,
from any concession.
and we're doing this without sacrificing the sovereignty in any way of this country. In a targeted way, designed to help defined areas and the people who live there. Now, as well as the businesses that are, or that we hope to see established in those areas. The question was raised, it's just that I just don't think that people who live in a tax-free zone, who got their wealth greatly enhanced by being in that zone for 30 years, should really criticize an attempt to give some part of that to the poor man elsewhere in this country. So give us a chance, brother. Let Baintown and Brum Street start to get somewhere close to where y'all are in Freeport. Now, we heard, you know, let me just premise what I say by this. Oppositions have nothing else to do in their life but to criticize every third thing.
Madam President, we in this country enjoy a very robust democracy. We in opposition represent a cross-section of the population, and it is our duty and responsibility under the Westminster system of governance to ensure that we analyze the legislation that come to this honorable place, and we make the government follow through with what they're proposing, and what is incorrect, it is our duty to notify them on behalf of the Bahamian people and those who we represent. So this is a democracy, and it is our job, and we will fall down on our job if we do not bring the government faults and inabilities to light on behalf of the Bahamian people.
You know, obviously,
That's our job, man. We're doing our
obviously
job.
I'm going to be sitting down a lot, because if I say the sun is shining out there, Doc is going to be on his foot saying, no, he denies that. Okay? But this is the job of opposition. It is the job of opposition to oppose. And I don't know why he does not wish for me to characterize what he's doing as what he's doing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, Madam President, I don't know if I'm going to have to shout over the good doctor all afternoon. I'd rather speak in a measured tone and not have to shout over him. Okay. Now, your job and the job of the opposition is to oppose. And one of the things that I told my colleagues, some of them new into the parliamentary process, is no matter what good you do, it will be opposed by the opposition. No. Oh, Lord, have
It's-
mercy.
Is there going to be a
Opposition
response
does
on a
not
point of order?
mean that you vote against it. You try to pick holes in it. And the point I said to my colleagues is no matter what you do, they will never say, Hosanna in the highest, what a wonderful job you've done. Oh, how is it that we, for 45 years, never thought about any targeted assistance to over the areas? Oh, no. They would never admit that. They'll sit there and talk all kind of fluff, but they have no answer for the simple question. You don't like what we're doing? What did you do? You do not like what we're doing with this bill? What did you do for Over the Hill in particular? The bill. Our bill. Then we hear the next cry, you know, and this is the typical insidious PLP paternalism by which they fed, nurtured, and basically imposed on this country and the psyche of the Bahamian people a deliberate culture of dependence, where they told people, oh, you can't do nothing. The government got to do it for you. The government got to give you money. The government got to do this. The government got to give you the boat and go fishing it for you too. Okay? Creating a culture of dependence in the minds of the people. It is. So we hear questions asked opposite today. Oh, so are you doing all of this? Well, where's the capital? Where's the capital? Well, I know they will mean where Nassau is. We know that Nassau is the capital. That ain't the capital they were asking about. Where's the capital meaning where's the money? You're providing an act for people to improve their own lives and circumstances. Where's the money? So in addition to providing the framework, in addition to sacrificing potentially tens of millions of dollars, which translates as tens of millions of dollars in the pockets of householders and business persons in over-the-hill areas. In addition to sacrificing that money, which goes straight into the pocket of the poor, we get barracked and barraged today. Where the money? Where the money? Well, how are they going to do it? They're doing it, and they will have the potential to do it because they will have immediately the savings of not having to pay import duties or excise taxes or VAT on these things. Okay? And so off the top, they start off, at least, you know, when you look at the rate of excise taxes and the rate of customs duties, and you realize that when these items land, you get hit with all of them and you pay VAT on top of all of that, they're maybe going to be paying 40% less, 20 to 30 or 40% less for things that other Bahamians outside the zone are going to have to pay. Oh, and the Freeporters don't have to pay either, except VAT. They have to pay VAT now, like every other Bahamian. But all of them other things, oh no, Freeporters don't have to pay them. So people over the hill in the designated area are going to have, in their businesses, the same or similar levels of tax exemption as that enjoyed by businessmen from Freeport. Same for their businesses, or similar, with the intention of encouraging Bahamians to set up businesses in these zones, just like Dr. Darville took advantage of the thing and went and migrated to Freeport. He's a Nassau boy, you know, Nassau boy. Gone to Freeport, where business was good, easy to set up, cost far less to get that office built. Far less. Exactly, and you took advantage of it, and that's good. Now, who gave you the capital? What government gave you the capital? Oh, okay. Let us go back. So you're a business person. So do you consider yourself then? You consider yourself then inherently a better person than a man over the hill?
Madam President, Madam President, now, Madam President.
The chair,
Madam President.
the chair
with all due
recognizes
respect,
Senator Darville.
I know the AG is trying to present his case and trying to convince the heart of those individuals in over the hill. But
I
he is
withdraw any
absolutely
aspersion.
wrong. No,
I withdraw any aspersion against you.
No.
I withdraw
AG,
any question that you find aspersive.
No, I find that to be offensive.
Okay, I withdraw any question that you find offensive.
No, because you see, you have taken your argument and you have personalized it to me.
You made a comment.
But
to
I
which
can do it to
responded.
you. I can do it to you, and I
made a
think it's
comment.
unhonorable.
I
AJ.
said I withdraw anything.
Thank you so much, because
but,
it's
but
unhonorable.
bear in mind that you started off making a comment personal to you.
No,
to which I responded.
no.
You did.
Madam Vice
you said,
President,
what a man,
Madam
I'm a
Vice
businessman, I went over there and I did what I had to do.
Madam Vice President.
I'm educated.
Madam Vice President,
Yes, sir.
You said it sitting right there.
as a senator in this honorable place, and the AG who I respect as an honorable man, he knows the rules in this place, that we should not allow our debate to be degraded at a personal level. And I take offense of him personalizing a matter for Grand Bahama for
And
me.
I think so.
And I think it is wrong.
I withdraw anything
you
that I
very
said
much.
The senator has
would
withdrawn
be
the comment.
offensive to you, okay, or anything. But thank you. I withdraw it. No. I withdraw that. But the point is that we are seeking to enable persons who've been overlooked and paternalized and treated as if they don't have the sense to do what everybody else apparently is able to do. Treated as if, oh, this is the babies over the hill, we gotta... No. Let's look at the history of this. When Iraqi, I told you the story about how they were refugees from Porter's Key because of the same bug that's causing people to get sick now. And Christie didn't have the answer. Former Prime Minister Christie, then Minister of Health, didn't have the answer. The pending administration didn't have the answer. The F&M got elected. We created Iraqi. We didn't build a single building there. We divided the land up on paper. We told people where their boundaries were. We issued the land leases, and we told them, you develop it. And look what you have. We didn't make any money available to them. The Bahamas Development Bank is open for any Bahamian who wants to go there. Royal Bank of Canada, open. Scotia Bank, Commonwealth Bank, all of them are there. These gentlemen who made Iraqi had an idea, and they got an opportunity. And from that opportunity, look where they went. Look where they took the area. And so all we're saying is, don't ask me where the cash is. The cash is already being pumped in through the government's tax exemptions. It is only for people to take advantage of it. Let's go to the issue of, the other comment was made about rent. Rent and how buildings are going to be improved and persons aren't going to be able to pay the rent. Well, how do we know that? How do we know that? One of the consequences of the Rent Control Act, and it's an unintended consequence, but it is a documented economic reality. If you tell a landlord, this is your building, you can only charge $50 a month for rent for this building. And he said, but hold a second, I have 4 units, so that'll give me $200 a month. Just to maintain this building costs me $400 a month. If you won't allow me to charge a rent that at least allows me to recover my costs, what I can do? Well, this is what happened over the hill. As soon as the Rent Control Act was passed, because it wasn't flexible enough to accommodate, the reality is that some buildings have a higher maintenance. Some buildings, in order to get them to a level, they have to be improved. It contributed to the depreciation of the rental stock over the hill. And you talk to anybody who's been around long enough, they would attribute a lot of the decline over the hill to the Rent Control Act. But it was passed for the right reason, to prevent price gouging, but was inflexible so that it did not admit of persons being able to show that it was impossible to maintain the property at such low levels of prescribed rent right across the board. So what do? You have to have laws that are able to be flexible enough to capture the extraordinary as well as the ordinary. And a bill such as this gives the Minister of Finance the flexibility to set terms and conditions to the grant of a certificate that may be peculiar to the business. So, for example, I would say that a non-Bahamian owned business that is, let's say, specialized, not labor intensive, it doesn't have many Bahamians employed, and if they're employed in menial positions, may not be entitled to the full plenitude of exemptions as a Bahamian owned, labor intensive, high skilled, with Bahamian, etc., everywhere, working at all levels, and Bahamian owned. So we have to look at all of these issues. But at the end of the day, we want a framework that is flexible enough to allow the minister to work with businesses to craft what is best to enable them to invest over the hill, to create jobs and opportunities over the hill. Where all there are now is very few areas, a few mom and pop stores, a few mom and pop type or restaurant type takeouts, maybe a little tailor shop here, maybe a little shoe repair shop there, maybe, but nothing really improving the ambience, nothing really adding to, nothing really being supported. And so we see a lot of old businesses that used to be over the hill closing down. But the idea is to revitalize that, get people back into the area, creating jobs, so that our brothers and sisters growing up and working or living East Street South in the Grove, and I mean the Black Grove, Coconut Grove, can find, over the hill. But that may be a little far for the purpose of this particular act right now, but certainly immediately over the hill, Brum Street, Meadow Street, Meaton Street, that we could see. You look at the old family restaurant Brightly's. And it's closed now. Closed. You know, we spent many wonderful afternoons at Brightly's restaurant. Now, partially it's to do with the patriarch after who it was named. Actually, the matriarch. Then the patriarch took the matriarch's name because everybody was calling him what her name was. His wife was, Wellington Ferguson's wife was Brightly Ferguson. So, but everybody called him Brightly because that was the name of the restaurant. So he took the name Brightly. So he became Wellington Brightly Ferguson. You see? But that's just a wonderful thing about there. But, you know, okay, so the family may not be interested anymore, but someone else could go there and rent it. These are the things that could happen in the Over the Hill area. This is what we hope to see, to bring businesses back, because when Brightly was there, 90% of the F&M leadership was there, keeping business going every day. And after we finished council, head over to Brightly's every night, okay? And that was bringing money from all over Nassau into there. You're being served by people who lived in the area, okay? And so, but that business is gone. Those opportunities are gone. So Brightly's small. Think about it when you had, you know, the Cat and the Fiddle, when you had Peanuts Taylor. It's the same story throughout Over the Hill, and we're trying to address it. So don't ask where the money is. The money is already being pumped in by the tax exemptions. Now, there are, the Development Bank is there, and other entities are there to help people. What is not there is some politician to give you $10 and hope to get 20 back. That's what ain't there. Huh. You know, I would hope that the PLP and members opposite don't have the view that Over the Hill should just remain the way it is. You know, because this is what frightens me. This is what frightens me. Okay? We were asked about what about leakages. You see, people trying to pick holes. What about leakages? Let me tell you what about leakages. Section 13 of the Act. I was told, you told, the Bahamas was told by a member opposite, oh, this hacking, I don't teething, nothing could happen. Read Section 13. Anybody, want to know about leakages? Any person who contravenes any provision of this Act, or any regulation, or any, please, or any condition of any certificate, commits an offense, and in default shall be deemed to have committed as long as the default continues. And then whenever a company does it, we make every director, every principal officer, any other officer, any beneficial owner, any shareholder, the actuary or the auditor, all of them liable. All of them. All the accountants can go to jail if they're facilitating you in fraudulent statements. Okay? But you know, you could put all these protections in, and you hear opposite, oh, it's not enough protection. It's not enough protection. It ain't enough protection. You know, let me say one thing. You could build an act out and fortify it with 1 million different criminal offenses, and anyone reading it will say, my God, I better don't touch this. Because, I mean, if I do this wrong, I go into jail. Okay, the fact is that the Act has sufficient protection in it, okay? Let me say also that political patronage is something that we've been fighting against, PLP political patronage, because, and I heard it here, man, don't just pass this bill, just put some money in people's hands. This is the problem. Once again, this feeds you one fish for the day. That's the PLP way. They're not interested in you having the independence to tell them, get out of my face. I don't need you. I could do it for myself. I just want to say one thing about this bill, last I close. This Economic Empowerment Zones bill is a partner with the Access to Affordable Homes Act. Both of these acts are directly targeted to individuals. They are targeted to ordinary Bahamians, which gives them tax breaks. You know, I just can't imagine. You know, once again, you hear this thing, oh, who have capital? When we developed the Tall Pines subdivision in central Abaco, the FNM did. We are just saying, oh, you know what, they ain't no capital. You ain't giving them no money. Go there now. See what ordinary Bahamians have done. Drive through there and see the high quality homes. See the triplexes. See the apartments. I have a quote. I'm reading a quote I wrote from a member over there. Put some money in the hands of these people. You.
better stop that because I didn't even piece of my contribution.
That's his then. No, I was Darville. See that Darville? Blue pen, Darville. Put some money in the hands of these people. That's a direct quote. Okay? Now, so what I'm trying to say, ladies, fellow Bahamians and colleague senators, that we are not into political handouts. We are into empowering people to help themselves. And on that note, I commend this bill and move that the question now be put.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded for its second reading and committal, a bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of business in a designated economic empowerment zone and for matters connected thereto. As many. As many?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
The bill be read second time.
The bill will be read a second time.
A bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of businesses in the designated economic empowerment zone and for matters connected thereto.
Further second readings.
Madam Vice President, there are no further second readings. I now rise to ask, to move that the Senate do now resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Senator the Honorable Wanian Dorset in the chair. If I may obtain a second.
Madam Vice President, I rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Senate now convert itself into a committee, resolve itself into a committee of the whole with Senator Johnny Ann Dorset in the chair.
Yes. As many?
As many.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Dorset will take the chair. Get out the chair.
Okay. Tripping over your own weekend. You can talk something. He ain't got no seat yet. He ain't got no seat yet, man. He ain't got no seat yet.
Shall we continue,
No.
senators?
That's it.
Mr. Leader?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the long title of the bill be agreed. If I may obtain a second.
I rise to second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The long title is agreed.
Madam President, I beg leave to move that the short title and commencement be agreed.
I rise to second, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded that the short title and commencement be agreed. As many as are in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The short title and commencement are agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that Section 2, Clause 2 of the bill be agreed.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 2 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 2 is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that Clause 3 of the bill be agreed. Let me say that we just got notice of the intention of members opposite to raise amendments, none of which I've seen. So I would have to take the reactionary position, which is to say no to all of them, and invite all my colleagues to vote no to every last one, since I don't know what he's going to come here with. And I've not had the chance to consider whether I would consult with my colleagues and my cabinet colleagues to see whether any wonderful suggestion that he was making ought to be accepted by us. Unfortunately, that's where we are.
Is there a second?
Seconder.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Clause 3 be agreed. As many, the chair recognizes
Thank you.
Senator Darville.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, in Clause 3 of this bill, we move the following amendment. In Clause 3A of the bill, insert immediately after the word zone, the word, who are ordinary residents at the date of the designation. And in Clause 3B of the bill, insert immediately after the word zone, the words, at the date of the designation. Madam President.
Do you have a seconder?
Madam Chair, I second those amendments.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Clause 3,
And A and B be amended.
A and B be amended as read.
That's right,
As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the nays have it this time.
yes. Okay.
The
Yeah.
motion was defeated.
Clause 3 goes through, we now move on,
Okay.
right? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I now move, oh, sorry, make
Yeah.
the
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 3 be agreed. As many as are in favor, unamended. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 3 is agreed as written.
Any other members? sir? 5, okay. Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that Clause 4 of the bill be agreed.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Clause 4 be agreed. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 4 is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that Clause 5 of the bill be agreed.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 5 be agreed. As many, Chair recognizes
Thank
Senator
you, Madam Chair.
Darville.
Proposed amendment to Clause 5. In Clause 5 of the bill, add a new subclause 5 as follows. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary in any of the laws where concessions are granted under the Act relating to the rental and lease premises of landlord owner thereof shall be prohibited from increasing the rents payable, therefore for a period of 3 years or for a period that permits the tenant to enjoy 75% of the value of the concession, whichever is the granted benefit, the greater benefit.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second those amendments.
Now, this has got to be the most egregious form of legislative socialism and robbery ever proposed. No.
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 5 be amended as read. As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, the
Nays are-
motion has failed. We'll move on.
No,
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 5, as written, be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5 is agreed as written.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that Clause 6 of the bill be agreed.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that Clause 6 be agreed. As many, Senator Dalville.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Clause 6 of the bill, in subclause 1, delete the existing subclause C and substitute a new subclause C as follows. The applicant is ordinary resident in the zone.
Who?
The applicant
Uh-huh.
is already in the zone. In subclause 4, delete all of the subclause after the word a certificate of trade or a certificate of development and substitute in the subclause the following: shall be issued on condition that the holder therefore shall provide employment and contractual opportunities firstly to the residents ordinarily reside in and contractors conducting businesses within the zone. And in subclause 7, delete the word in the existing subclause after the word the and substitute the following: Supreme Court.
Madam Chair, I rise to second the amendment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Clause 6 be amended as read. As many as are in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The amendment has failed. It's been moved and seconded that Clause 6 be agreed as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6 is agreed as written.
All right. Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that clauses 7 through 15 be agreed. If I may obtain a seconder.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that clauses 7 through 15 be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Clause 7 through 15 are agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the first schedule be agreed.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that the first schedule be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The first schedule is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the second schedule be agreed.
There a second?
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that the second schedule be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The second schedule is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the third schedule be agreed. This is the schedule that prohibits liquor stores, but not restaurants, to sell liquor, and gambling houses from benefiting from this bill.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that the third schedule be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The third schedule is agreed.
Madam Chair, I beg leave to move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Any further?
Any further committals?
No. There are none, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I now, sorry. Yeah, sorry. There are none. Madam Chair, no further. I now move that the Speaker do now retake the chair.
The President.
I always say to the Speaker, I don't know why, that Madam Vice President do retake her chair.
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I rise to second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Vice President do now take the chair. As many as are in favor will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The Vice President will now take the chair.
Just to help you. Just to help you. There are none. Sorry?
It's been reported that the committee of
Yes. Oh, no, it's, yeah.
It has been reported that the Committee of the Whole indicates that has gone through the bill without any amendments, and it has been and it has and it's been voted on. And I apologize without making any amendments. And I now ask for third reading and passage of the bill.
Thank you. Madam Vice President, I now have the great privilege to move for the third reading and passage of a bill.
I now have the, thank you, I now have the great, what wonderful embrace of collegiality we have today. Madam President, I now have the great privilege to move for the third reading and passage of a bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of businesses in a designated economic empowerment zone and for matters connected thereto. If I may obtain a seconder.
Madam Vice President, I do rise to second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of business in a designated economic empowerment zone.
Start again.
It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exceptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of business in a designated economic empowerment zone and for matters connected thereto has been read for a third time.
No, be read. No.
Be read
No.
for a third time. And passage.
Right, and passed. As many?
As many as are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Order the bill do
Order
not
that the
pass.
bill now,
Do not pass. Stand up.
order that the
No,
bill,
no, order be read a third time first. Let the bill be read a third time.
order that the bill be read a third time.
A bill for an act to promote the redevelopment of communities of the Bahamas through the granting of certain exemptions and fiscal incentives for the renovation and restoration of property and the encouragement of businesses in a designated economic empowerment zone and for matters connected thereto.
Order the bill. Stand up.
Order,
Stand up.
order that the,
Stand up.
order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be the Economic Empowerment Zones Bill 2018.
Hey, Jobeth, is this your copy with these notes in the back here about family and everything? Yeah, the show notes. Okay. Okay. Madam, for the third readings.
Further third readings?
Madam Vice Chair, Vice President, there are no further third readings. Let me, before I move the adjournment, let me first of all thank colleagues senators for the vigorous debate and I think exchange of views. We got a little testy, and I do regret that we got a little testy, Senator Dowell, and to make it show our cousin that, yes, yeah, I have nothing but the highest regard for you personally and your achievements, taking full advantage of the wonderful, wonderful economic circumstances of Freeport. This said with love. But at the end, yeah, no, we know it's bad in Freeport, and this government is working overtime to fix it, and we will. I also, though, wish to give special commendation and wishes for good health and a safe delivery to our respected fellow senator opposite, Senator Jo Beth Colby Davis, who, despite being in the family way, heavily, which BAME is usually summarizes one word, right? Is she heavy? She came here and fought like a gladiator. Huh? And she was unrelenting. And, you know, we do wish you all the very best, and to have a safe delivery. Our prayers will be with you. And I just wanted to express our deep appreciation for you being here, even in such circumstances. And I also want to take a moment to note the presence of your dear mother, Mrs. Colby. I couldn't remember the first name. Mrs. Irma Colby, and your sister, Owenza. Owenta. Okay, pardon me, yeah. I do recall I asked if your daddy was Owen, and I was told no. Okay. But they're here to see you as well, and so I think we should just note that. And on that note, would you wish to add to it, please? Yes, please. Yes.
I would like to say also from the chair, Senator Colby Davis, we do truly wish you a very healthy process in delivering your child. Having had the experience of going through this with others, I know that many potential challenges do exist, but we wish you the very best, Godspeed, and you have a wonderful baby girl.
Yes. And on that note of profound best wishes, I would now wish to move that the Senate be now adjourned, sine die, if I may obtain a second.
It has been moved and 3 times seconded that the Senate be adjourned, sine die. As many as are in favor of adjournment. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it.
Madam President, Madam Vice President, I now move that the Senate be now adjourned.
The Senate stands adjourned.